Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Garbagemice podcast, the podcast that had left me completely friendless. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, all my friends are gone. I am the only person recording tonight's podcast. So, the reason why I still choose to record and not cancel the show is because this whole show was started just as a giant middle finger to the trash rats saying, hey, why can't you record like every Sunday? This shit's fucking easy. Which it is. We have not missed a single episode of recording ever since we started. Today we just read Sante, Little Pizza Box, and practically everybody else I wanted on the show had extraordinary circumstances. So, we would have missed a day of recording, but it goes against the spirit of the Garbagemice not to record an episode. So, I decided to let this episode be the things that matter to you guys the most. Today we will be talking about how to survive a civil war. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a whole segment on how to survive a civil war, also some Bible story time, and I had something else prepared in my mind, but I kind of forgot about it. So, let's start with some Civil War survival guide by artillery. First thing you want to do in a civil war is you gotta get the fuck out of there. You gotta do what I'm doing and just not be there. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is actually the best way to go about things. This is why, Europe and North America are full of Syrian refugees, not just immigrants. Of course, you have a lot of North African refugees as well. About racial statistics some other time. So, how do you know when a civil war is coming? Well, my microphone is very low. How do you know when a civil war is coming? Trust me, you'll be able to know. This is not something that there are instances of it popping up overnight, but it's very you'll know it's coming when it's coming. You'll have time to not only prepare but figure out what you want to do. Now, most people, trust me when I say this, most people are going to say, I'm going to stay in my home, I'm going to fight, I'm going to do what's right. A lot of the people I know who were in their 20s at the time joined the military. They did what they thought was right. Sorry, I'm drinking some stuff. You don't want to be that guy. You're not gonna make the difference in that war unless you want to. Unless you're already high up in the military, or unless you already have anti-material, The only instance I know of somebody successfully defending his home and living is one of my friends' grandfathers. He was a very rich man, very powerful man. He had a whole lot of anti-material machine guns. He had doshkas. He had so much ammunition, so much food. I'm gonna talk about how to procure foods later, but right now your priority should be, if you believe that militant groups or that an armed conflict is coming to your city or where you live, or you are aware of something approaching that area in any capacity, if you can hear gunfire, if you can hear explosions, get the fuck out of Dodge. Go to another part of your country. A lot of Syrians did that. Forget your home. If your home's blown up, you'll have nothing to protect. And as a matter of fact, you'll die with it. So, you gotta get the fuck out of there. Food. First of all, weapons. If you have machine guns, if you have a whole compound of people, if you have your own armed militia, sure, go ahead, defend your home. You're gonna manage. But if you're just an average Joe, living in this family home, you got your house, you got your children, you got your wife, get out of there. Now, most people, or a significant amount of people, is not going to have to relocate, but a lot of cities are going to have to take in refugees from other areas, so expect a lot of strain on the infrastructure of wherever you live, whether it's a big city or it's a small community. Now, big cities, to be honest with you, it's kind of like a coin flip, right? You don't know if massive groups are going to be yeah, we're going to take over this area, or if the military and the police are going to decide yeah, we're going to keep this shit on lockdown, we're going to keep it in check. It's a coin flip, really is, but you'll have a lot more warning in a city knowing to get the fuck out versus the countryside. But still, even if you are in a city as soon as civil war starts, you want to move to a safer place. You don't have a horse in this race. You don't have something to fight for, right? This is you want your own survival. You might love your country, you might love your people, but there's not going to be any of that. Second thing is, this is specifically geared towards like white nationalists and other groups of people that I know are around, and I know they're preparing for civil war. But you want to stay away from racial or divisive ideology. You want the people you protect. Sure, you want to stay within your own peoples. Let me just clarify that, right? Nobody's going to love you as much as your own people are going to love you. But at the same time, if your ideology revolves around making other peoples your enemies, then it's going to fail and it's going to get you killed. It's going to get you fucked up. Stay away from that shit. We can discuss the semantics of it later. We can discuss about racial crimes, about everything. Whatever it is, an ally to you is more useful than the 100 enemies. Or like one ally is more useful than, or you get my point. You don't want that shit. You don't want to be involved in that bullshit ideologies. It's only gonna get you. Shut the fuck up, dude. I'm recording a podcast. Fucking cars, fucking assholes without mufflers. Anyway, get the fuck out of there. Medical supplies. Contrary to popular belief, you will still have medical supplies. Depending on where you are in the country, if you're in a relatively safe place, you will always have them. If you're not in a safe place, they're going to be available. It's not the biggest of deals, but if you're isolated, that's when the problems start. If you're isolated or like you are cornered. Again, civilians, like if you are a civilian, just stay out there. Medical supplies are probably going to be available. Like, to be honest, I don't know the complete situation of the United States, like, supply chain. But I know that there's going to be humanitarian aid. There's going to be, like, Doctors Without Borders, all that sort of crap. There's going to be enough to keep people from dying from infections, from whatnot. But you're still going to have people dying, especially in remote areas, of, like, simple stuff as, like, food poisoning. You're going to have people dying of infection. This is always a threat, even if you are in the middle of a civilized society. Basically, you don't want to take your health for granted. Food, I think, is a very important one. It's a good idea to have like a few months supply of food anyway, anywhere you want. But no matter how much food you get, it's going to be your sole source of sustenance. You're always going to have also food coming in through you, whether it's through humanitarian aid, because, you know, the globe actually fucking gives a shit, or whether it's through government aid, or whether it's through your own community. You're not going to find people starving to death, but you're not going to be able to go out to your local restaurant and be like, I want a medium rare blue cheese sirloin steak without blah blah. You won't get that shit, okay? You're gonna be eating like fucking peanut butter. You're gonna be eating not canned food. You're gonna be eating like grains, dried foods, noodles, rice. Rice is very big, very easy to produce anywhere. I'm pretty sure in the US you might have a lot of corn because corn is big in the US. You're gonna have food. Don't worry about food. You're gonna live. Most important point. This is something I should have started with. Whatever happens, you have that human spirit to live, to thrive on, to live on, to pass on. You're gonna find ways to find entertainment. You're gonna find ways to find food. It's gonna be different from community to community, but whatever happens, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna be dying, and if you die, one way or another, accident, whatever, the world's gonna go on. Your family's gonna go on. Your community's gonna go on. The only way that won't be the case is if a hostile group is coming close to your area, which is why I reiterate time and time again, get the fuck out of Dodge if some shady shit's going on in your area. That's food, that's medical supplies. It's going to be available everywhere you go, but not to a great degree. If you have like a rare disease, or if you have like something that's, hard to manage, that needs attention, medical attention, you might have a harder time, or you might even perish. This is an unfortunate fact of it. Depression is a big thing. I shit you not. The amount of friends and family I know that just kind of died while cleaning their guns. You never know what happens. One day you're cleaning your gun, and then you shoot yourself in the head. It happens a lot. You're gonna want to stay away from that depression. You're gonna want, again, why I say not to engage in retarded divisive ideologies like racist ideologies, like sectarian, like only my religion ideology, like me first ideologies. You want to stay away from that shit, because what's the most important thing in civil war? What's the most important thing in times of strife, in times of growing societies? Always has been, always will be community. It will always be the people around you. It will always be who you can get with you, and whether those people are different or the same, they're probably going to be the same. They're probably going to stand up for you if you look like them, if you're from the same background. Always been the case. But you're going to have people who, out of the goodness of their hearts, are going to help you out because they like to help people. And when the time comes, you should help as well. You should actively engage in your community. You should know your neighbors. You should love your neighbors. You should see what they need, and if you have it, you can give it to them. That spirit of giving is going to be a lot more prominent than individuality when times of strife are upon us. It's not going to be as bad as you're thinking. It's not. Hell, I went through 10 years of my life, through my teenage years, telling my friends in safer countries in Europe and America, you know what, it's not that bad here. And it was bad. It was very bad. But to me, through my own eyes, through my own vision, through my own life experience, I was going out with friends. I was eating like falafel. I still had my parents. They had their problems. They had a lot of time trying to cover for us. I had a lot of that. You're gonna live. And you're gonna find a way to just say, fuck it. I'm gonna keep going with my life. It's not gonna be the main issue. The main issue is going to be whether you choose to make the war like a part of your life. If you are able to get out of there, if you're able to avoid it, please do. If you are able to help people, again, please do. I don't believe you're gonna have like mass starvation and famine in the United States, at least. I don't believe that that's ever gonna be the case. That was never even the case in Syria. Like, starvation wasn't the problem. The problem was the quality of food. The problem was, oh, we're eating rice and vegetable soup for the 80th day in a row. It wasn't like, oh, we can't eat. Oh, it's like, oh, we can't enjoy our food. We can't, And that passed by, right? It's going back in right now. People are back to starving, and not starving. Like, again, just what you want in a civil war is normalcy. What you want is a sense of, not that everything's alright, but that everything is, you get up in the morning, you drink your cup of coffee, you get your smokes if you're a smoker, you go out, you say hi to your friends, go perform your job, you're going to go back, you're still going to have a job. You might lose your main source of income, like if you're an IT specialist, for example. You might have to find like a different place to go, like, I don't know, like your company might shut down, and if it does, there's going to be another, like, you're going to have to find a place that needs you. So it's good to go practical skills, it's good to do a trade school, like whatever it is, but there's still going to be computer shops, you're still going to live. That's the most important thing about a civil war. I show people videos of Syria, I show people videos of like what it's like back home, and they're shocked that people are dressed nice, that they have cars, they go to work. They're like, But I thought it was supposed to be war. Yes, it is civil war, and in some places like Homs, like Aleppo, there's nothing they can really do. You gotta get the fuck out of there. You are starving, you are being bombed, you are dying, and I don't have much experience if you are living in one of the most fucked up areas. I know there's gonna be the same deal of children still going to school, of friends still going out with each other. Sorry, I'm drinking and I'm eating mints like a fucking moron, but I think even this is better than having no podcast. We're still gonna have people going to school. You're still gonna have people going out in cars with friends, like hanging around. I know that in the most fucked up areas of the country, the biggest problems people who are bombed daily tell me about is how little they had to do to get their minds off of it. That's the biggest problem they face. That's what sticks out to you the most. You don't remember it as being overtly traumatic until time, passes by and you're able to reflect. The main problem is always, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get my mind off of this? Play some chess. Find a hobby. Grow your skills. Like, buy a guitar, please. In the middle of a civil war. I'm not joking. This is not even like me being hyperbolic. We think about it like this. In the most fucked up, blown up, destroyed area of Syria or Afghanistan or like the Middle East or wherever, like in Ukraine, let's say in Ukraine, fuck it. You go to Ukraine, they're like, oh no, we're being bombed. They're not living their lives constantly like, no, not the bombs, anything but the bombs. No, they're still like going around with each other, playing chess, playing whatever. Like, you're still made out of the same stuff as those people, as us. And you still have those same interests, and you gotta think to yourself, what was I doing during the most stressful times of my life, That's how we feel. Like, you'll hear these homeless people who have no food, no homes, they're struggling to make it by daily, they're living in the streets in the complete rain. You'll hear them talk about how lonely it was, and how that's the thing that sticks out to their heads the most. And it's true, because it's kind of the same needs we all have. So, this is Civil War talk. You are gonna live, you are gonna survive. Stockpiling on food and stockpiling on medicine, it's important, and it's a very smart idea, but it's not the best way to go about, during these times of preparation. If you're gonna have 5 years worth of food, you're probably not gonna use it, to be honest. And if you have to use those 5 years supply of food, then the best idea would have been just to get out and not have to stockpile that food altogether. There's gonna be safe places on this planet that you want to go, and this is my main idea: is get out of there if you can. If you can't, make the best out of it. That was this talk, the Civil War talk. Now, time for Bible stories with artillery. Today, we will be talking about the story of King David. Now, I'm gonna have some details wrong here. This is not meant to be like a replacement for your Bible. This is just like a dramatized reading of, or not reading, a dramatized like remembering of what I think I heard or what I think I read. So, King David, let's go. Back in the olden days of the peoples of Israel, there was this very young lad. His name is Saul. A very good king. Saul. Oh my god, Audacity is all fucking glitching. Testing? Yeah, it's working. Saul was not a very great king. He was not very smart. And so one day, he decided to make an offering to the Lord up in heaven. The Lord did not like the fact that Saul made that offering, because he was not supposed to do it, because he was not a priest. And so he was like, you are not going to be king anymore. I'm going to find someone else to replace you, you piece of shit. You absolute fucknut. Saul was like, I repent. It's like, okay. God calls his most beloved priest, and he tells him, hey, there's a guy. One of his sons is gonna become the next king of Israel. You gotta go and anoint him. You know, you gotta baptize him, put oil on him, whatever. I don't just fucking. He's gonna be the next king. And Samuel is like, the prophet is like, okay, fine, whatever. Goes to the guy. I think his name was Jesse. Saul and Jesse. God damn it. There is no altar in this story, by the way. I'm not making this up. This is what I actually remember. Because David is the son of Jesse, right? So, Samuel goes to Jesse. He's like, hey, one of your sons is going to be the next king. And he's like, oh my god. Thank you. Are you going to anoint him? He's like, yeah. Let me see your sons. He goes through the first son. Real big guy. Real tough. Real nice looking. Samuel asks God, yeah, is that the guy? He's like, no. Goes to the next son. Real big guy. Real tough. Real nice. Like, is that the guy? No. Third son. Fourth son. Fifth son. None of them is the guy. And so Samuel asks Jesse, do you have any other sons? And he's like, yeah, I got a young lad in the field. He's like 12 or something. So Samuel goes to the young lad, and he's like, hey God, is this the little boy? So God was like, yeah, that's him. That's David, a man after my own heart. And Samuel's like, okay. Hey little boy, how's it going? And David's like, hello, hi, I'm David the shepherd. And he's like, I'm gonna anoint you and you're gonna become king over Israel. And David's like, cool. And he's young, so he doesn't understand the full significance of that. Anyway, he is anointed. And then Saul, the current king of Israel, the guy who fucked up, is going to battle. And there's this massive Philistine dude. His name is Goliath. You might have heard of him. David versus Goliath. Goliath is this gigantic, gargantuan guy. He's like 10 foot tall. He fucking mogs everybody at the battlefield. He's like, you know what? Instead of everybody dying here on the battlefield, instead of like hundreds of people dying, I'm gonna fight the Israelites champion. And whoever may he be, if I beat him, we have defeated the Israelites. If he beats me, well, the Israelites have defeated us. And so Saul is like, oh, fuck. I'm not going to fight that guy. And so for 3 days, there's a stalemate. And every day, Goliath is getting progressively less patient. And he's like, come on, you Israeli fucks. Where's your God now, you sons of bitches? You stupid pieces of fucking shits. You fucking retards. Where's your God? And the Israelites are like, if only we had a champion. All of a sudden, David shows up. The little 11-year-old boy is like, hey, who's that guy? Saul's like, that is Goliath. He is 4 times your size. David's like, why is he insulting God? I'm gonna kill that son of a bitch. And so Saul's like, you're a very young boy, okay? I appreciate the enthusiasm, but how do I say this? You're not cut out for this. David's like, motherfucker, I have been killing fucking lions and bears to protect my sheep. I've gone through some tough shit, man. You don't know what it's like out there in the fields. It's tough. It's real fucked up. And Saul's like, oh, okay, we got one of these guys. Okay, you know what? I'm going to give you my armor. I'm going to give you my sword. And let's see if you can kill Goliath. And so David's like, fuck yeah. Puts on Saul's shield and sword. I was like, you know what? I've never trained with this stuff ever in my life. All I know is my shepherd stick and my shepherd sling. And so Saul's like, okay, fine, whatever. Go to battle as you please. And so David gets his sling, picks up 5 smooth stones from the ground, and walks up to Goliath. He's like, hey, motherfucker! Goliath's like, aw, who are you? He's like, I'm the guy who's gonna fuck you up, son of a bitch! You insulting our gods, God of Israel? You insulting our God of Israel, huh? I'm gonna fuck you up, you fucking goy! You Gentile! You son of a bitch, you piece of shit! Goliath was like, little boy, this is no place for you. It's like, come at me, bro. Come at me. Let's fucking do this. Let's end this shit. Goliath's like, okay, I'm gonna fuck you up now. You pissed me off. Goliath gets up, starts standing, starts laughing at the little boy, who's a quarter of his size. Meanwhile, David picks up a stone in one of his slings, and with one of the 5 stones he picked up, and starts swinging. And if you know anything about slings back in the day, especially like shepherd slings, they are as powerful as a .38 caliber revolver. So it was this Goliath guy versus a little kid with a gun. And so David throws the stone at Goliath, gets hit in the head, gets knocked out, skull fracture probably, suffering severe brain damage, falls on the ground. The Philistine's like, oh fuck, that's Goliath. Holy shit, Goliath just fell. And David calmly goes up to Goliath, picks up the man's sword, and just chops his head off with it. The Philistines are like, what the fuck? That's fucked up, man. That's cruel as shit. 12-year-old boy chopping off the head of somebody. Oh, we're leaving. We're out of here. This is none of our shit anymore. So the Israelites are like, yeah, we defeated the Philistines. Yeah. Well, the Philistines are driven back. Blah, blah, blah. Saul's really happy with David. His son Jonathan, who's like the same age as David, who also fought. Okay, he was probably not 12, but I like to think about it like a 12-year-old. It's never said what age David really was. But Saul's son Jonathan was really happy with David, and they're like blood brothers now. And so they returned to Israel, and the tribe is like, yeah, Saul, what a great king. He killed thousands of men. And then David killed 10,000 men. And Saul gets really pissed at this. It's like, what do you mean David killed 10,000? I did most of the killing. And they're like, yeah, but then you all fought in the battle, and David was super courageous and brave, and what a man, what a lad, you know, what a mad lad. So Saul, he's really vain. And so this gets to him. And so for the next while, all I can really think about is killing David. So Saul has David play like the harp for him, like the lyre. And David's really good at it. But then David I might be remembering this wrong, I don't remember. But one time Saul gets super drunk, and while David is playing the lyre for him, Saul just kind of picks up his spear and throws it at David, trying to kill the young lad. David, this is like the house not only of the king of Israel, but his best friend's father. He's like, what the fuck? But he continues playing the lyre, you know? He's like, okay, he missed me, whatever. I'm not gonna make a big deal out of this. I'm just gonna ignore it. Saul gets up, picks up his spear, sits back down where he was, and David continues playing the harp, and then Saul just throws the spear at him. David's like, okay, I'm just gonna get out of Dodge now. He escapes. And then, like 3 days after his escape, Jonathan meets him. He's like, David, come on, man, bro, where have you been? He's like, I don't know, man, your dad looks like he wants to kill me. And I'm like, no way, my dad loves you, man. My dad loves you. I'm gonna go and ask him what he thinks about you, and I'll let you know if he wants you dead or not. Like, he probably wants you back. He probably misses you a lot. And David's like, okay, thanks, bro. I really appreciate, like, the sentiment. I really appreciate you doing this for me. So, Jonathan goes up to his father, Saul, and he's like, hey, Dad, do you wonder where David's gone? And Saul's like, that son of a bitch, I'm gonna kill him as soon as I see him. I'm gonna fuck him up. I'm gonna chop his head right the fuck off at the dinner table, okay? This is his son's best friend. Jonathan's like, holy Dad, calm down. David, he's our friend, remember? He's the guy we went to battle with. He's like, if I find David ever again, I'm gonna fucking chop his head off, right? I'm gonna fuck him up. I'm gonna take his skull, feed it to the fucking pigeons, then kill the pigeons, and then feast on the pigeons. And I'm gonna feed those pigeons to the fucking crocodiles. Then I'm gonna ferment those crocodiles and turn them into pig shit. I was like, okay, Dad, David, he's a friend, right? And Dad's going into this fucking skids around about how much he hates David and how much he wants him dead. And so Saul's like, Jonathan's like, okay, this is not a good place for my friend David. He gets the news to David that, hey, like, it was done through a bow and arrow. Like, oh, if a bow crosses a certain threshold, you're supposed to escape if I don't tell my servant to pick it up. But if I tell my servant to pick it up, then you can come. And so he throws a spear and is like, yeah, don't pick that up. David, run away, David, basically. David runs away and, you know, becomes like a escapee, you know, a fugitive. During these times, David gets 12 mighty men, or is it 12, or is it like 13 or 30? I don't fucking know. David gets like a whole posse of people, right? This is like some fucking berserk shit. The guild of the whatever, right? This is the people of the Hawks. So, David, he's escaping. Saul gets word that, hey, David is at the city. David hears word that Saul knows that he's at that city, so he escapes. That Saul's coming to that city with, like, armies and shit. So he escapes. During that time, he's, like, saving cities from the Philistines, and then I think at one point, he becomes a leader of an imaginary army to the Philistines. Basically, he goes to the leader and says, you know me, right? I'm the guy who killed like a whole bunch of your men. And the guy's like, okay, yeah, sure, why should I trust you? He's like, because the king wants my life, and so I'm going to fight against him. And so the guy's like, okay, that makes sense. And David pretends to be like commanding armies and defeating the Israelites, but in reality, nothing is happening, and he's just getting paid to do jack shit, which is pretty swagger. Something like that happened in World War II. I'm going to talk about it soon. Anyway, eventually, Saul, while looking for David, wants to take a shit. So he goes into a cave to take a shit. Guess who happened to be hiding in that cave? That's right, David and his posse. And the guys are like, hey, Saul's taking a shit. You think this is our time to make a move on him? You know, kill him once for good. Save your life. David's like, this is God's anointed. I'm not gonna kill God's anointed, you know? This is not good. So they're like, are you sure this is a good idea? He's like, I'm just gonna cut off a piece of his rope, you know? I'm gonna show it to him. I'm gonna tell him I could have killed you, but I didn't, because you're God's anointed and I love you. So they cut off a piece of Saul's rope while he's taking a shit. Just to mock him with it, just to say, hey, like, we could have killed you, but we didn't, because you're God's anointed. We don't fuck with that shit, right? So, so Saul finishes taking a shit, walks out of the cave. Then David walks behind him. He's like, Saul! He's like, David! It's like, look at your rope! He's like, what the fuck? He's like, this is a piece of your rope that's missing. He's like, oh my god. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to kill you, man. Like, you're God's anointed. That shit means a lot to me, okay? We should stop this foolish behavior. We should stop this nonsense. Why do you want to kill me? This doesn't make any sense. And Saul's like, you're right, my son. I've been very jealous. I have been very bad. This was a very bad idea on my part. I don't know why I was doing this. This is pure evil from my heart. I shouldn't have done what I'm doing. I should have been nicer to you. I'm sorry. I hope you accept my apology and return with me to the castle. And Dave was like, I understand, sir. It's pretty rough times to all of us Israelites, so I'm happy to come back to your castle and keep playing the harp for you. At least this is how I remember. I don't know. This is the part where I kind of zoned out. So, David goes back to the castle. And Saul, while David is playing the lyre, throws a spear at him. And so David's like, okay, I'm getting out of Dodge again. Starts running away again. This time, when Saul starts looking for David, he finds David in... Oh, no. He doesn't find David. He goes to sleep. And David finds Saul's camp. But God has made all of Saul's men fall into a deep sleep. You know, this is not your regular sleep. This is like God coming down from the heavens saying, you people are gonna sleep. Okay, you're gonna sleep hard. And David and his band of men reach Saul's tent. And they're thinking, okay, we should kill Saul right now. And David's like, no. This is God's anointed. And so he picks up his spear and picks up his vase next to his head, goes out to the top of the mountain near the camp, tells the guards, wake up, guards! Why are you not protecting your king? He could have died just now. Look for his spear. Look for his vase. And they look, they're shocked. They're like, oh, shit. And Saul wakes up and is like, David, is that you? And he's like, yes. And I have your spear. And I have your vase. But I'm not going to kill you. I never will. Why do you hate me so much? He's like, you're alright, my son. I have been terrible. This has been a complete and continuous lapse in my judgment. He does it again. He throws a spear at him again, playing lyre, all sorts of shit. This is what I remember. I'm probably wrong at this, but I don't fucking care. But the thing in the camp did happen. I don't remember how Saul and David got separated again. Then Saul almost finds David, but he really doesn't. So, like, God protects David again. He sends Saul into battle while looking for David, and he's like 2 meters away from him. But then God has Saul defeated in battle, and all of Israel decides, you know who's gonna be our next king? The boy David. Because Samuel is still there, and he's still like, yeah, David's the next in line. Jonathan's not gonna be the king. Yeah, and Jonathan died as well. Anyway, that's the story of how David became king. Now, what happened after David became king? I hear you. This is my favorite part. David is supposed to go into battle, but he's like, because you know, kings. This is like Bronze Era period. They're supposed to go into battle and whatnot. But David's like, maybe later. I'm kind of busy right now, you know. I got like government stuff to attend to. You know how it is. You don't believe? Come on, I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. I'll definitely will, but not right now. Right now, I just wanna, attend to my kingly duties. So he sends one of his greatest generals into battle. Then, he doesn't do his kingly duties. He just starts moping around his castle and goes to the rooftop. And from the roof, he can see a very beautiful woman taking a shower. And he's like, what a beauty. What a beauty. Sends one of his men to ask, hey, who's that woman? He's like, yeah, you remember the 12 mighty men that were like Band of the Hawk with you, berserk style, in the desert while you were being hunted by the king of all Israel? He's like, yeah. He's like, that's his wife. David's like, oh, that's hot. That's real hot. Bring her over to me. So they bring the woman to King David. And has anyone here heard the term statutory rape? Well, David sure hasn't, because then he fucks her. He fucks this married woman. God doesn't like this very much. God is super angry. And so God sends his next prophet. I don't remember his name. Comes down to his prophet. He tells him, hey. The prophet's like, Lord, I'm your servant. God's like, the king of all Israel? The most powerful man in your midst, in your peoples, the guy that I anointed king? He's like, yeah. He's like, guess what he's done? Prophet's like, oh, that's horrible. That's terrible. And by the way, David has like 10 concubines, right? It isn't just adultery. This is another man's wife. And so God is like, well, you gotta go talk to David. I forgot a part. Another thing that David does. When the woman comes to him and she's like, oh, I'm pregnant, sir. And David's like, fuck. Your husband is in the battle I'm not supposed to be in right now, so I'm just gonna call him back and have him like sleep with you so he can like, he doesn't suspect anything. So he calls back the guy, one of his 12 mighty men. And the guy's like, okay, I'll come back. But then he sleeps outside the city gates. And David's like, what the fuck, man? He's like, how can I sleep in my own home if my brothers in arms are dying on the battlefield? And David's like, man, come on. I brought you back so you can have rest and be with your wife. And he's like, I understand, we are great friends, King David, but the men I fight with are not sleeping in their homes. They are sleeping on the battlefield amongst the enemy. And David's like, oh, fuck, okay, fine. Go sleep at your house. And so 2 days later, King David finds out that the soldier had been sleeping at the door of his house. Like outside his home. And David sends for him, is like, okay, man. Look, let's just get, we're gonna have a party in your honor. Here's some wine, here's some drink. Let's get drunk, let's get fucked up. And let's enjoy life, And so he gets him drunk. And sends him to his house. Next day he discovers, oh shit. That man is still sleeping on the city gates. David at this point is realizing this is not gonna happen. I'm fucked. So he's gonna know what's went on. So he sends him back into battle, but he tells one of his generals to send him not only to a bad flank, but once he's in that bad flank, to kill him with an arrow. And so one of his 12 mighty men dies. And this is how we graduate from being lazy to statutory rape to committing murder to conspiracy for assassination. And so he takes the man's wife for himself. He makes her one of his concubines. God is very angry. And so God sends the prophet. And the prophet is like, God, you give me the best of jobs. This is like very, very easy for me to do. Just walk up to the king and be like, hey, king, you're a murderer, rapist. So he goes up to the king, the prophet, and he's like, King David, I have bad news for you. I have terrible news. You have no idea what the evil that has befallen the people of Israel is. And David's like, speak. And he's like, there was a very rich man, a man with many sheep and many oxen. And David's like, yeah. He's like, to that man came a sojourner, a man with only one sheep. But the rich man really liked that poor man's sheep. So he took that man's sheep with his power and cooked it and ate it. And David's like, that is pure evil. That is disgusting. The son of a bitch, the evil bastard. You know what we should do? We should kill that man. And he should return what he stole from that other man 4 times as many. So 4 sheep. And the prophet is like, well, do you know who that man was, King David? And King David's like, who? The prophet is like, that man was you, sir, when you killed that man and raped his wife. And David is like, oh shit, how do you know? It's like, God told me. It's like, I completely forgot about that. Fuck. So he's like, great evil is going to befall your family, King David. King David repents. He's like, I'm sorry, Lord. I've done fucked up. This is like the worst possible things I could have done. Please forgive me. Please save my eternal soul. The prophet is like, your eternal soul is saved, King David, but A great evil shall befall your family, and they shall be divided, and blah blah blah. Bada bing, bada boom. King David's like, well, that doesn't sound very bad. It was bad. It was really bad. It went horribly wrong. Next up, one of King David's sons, because he has many concubines, takes a liking to his half sister, the daughter of King David. So he tells her brother Absalom. He tells him, "Hey, Absalom." Absalom's like, "What?" He's like, "I really like your sister." He's like, "Oh, cool." He's like, I want to find a way to be with her, And Absalom's like, "You know what you should do? You should pretend to be sick and ask her for cakes. Like, say the only cakes from her hands will make you not sick. And then you should confess to her." And the guy's like, cool. So let me just go do that real quick. The guy pretends to be sick, goes up to the woman, to his sister, by the way, his half-sister, and tells her, "I'm very sick, very ill. I want your cakes alone. Only your cakes by yourself, alone in my room. I want your cakes in my room to myself because I'm sick, I'm ill, and I only need your cakes in my room. Give me in my room with your cakes alone by yourself, with cakes in my room, and by yourself with cakes." And the woman's like, that sounds about right. So she bakes some cakes and goes into his room where he grabs her. And he's like, "I want some fuck tonight." She's like, but we're I'm your sister. This has never been heard of in the peoples of Israel. He was like, "That's not gonna stop me." And she's like, well, let's get married first. I'm saving my virginity for marriage. Come on, dude. What the fuck? Like, this is just ask our father so we can do this with dignity. My father won't deny me from you. He is just gonna, save me. Like, this is gonna be shameful. This is gonna ruin my life. Don't do this, man. He's like, "I don't care." And it says in the Bible that he raped her. It says in the Bible. And so, after he's done with her, it says a great hatred for her befell his heart, more than the love he had for her. No, not fuck. Oh, shit. There goes the mints. Now I'm gonna have mice in my room. Fuck. Whatever. And he's like, "Get the fuck out of my room." She's like, "Don't do this. This is gonna be a greater evil than you even raping me. You have to stay my dignity somehow. Come on, man. This will be more evil than just raping me. Raping me and kicking me out, that's a whole different level of evil." I was like, "Don't care, bitch. Get out. My servants, get this woman out of here." So his servants kick her out and lock his door. And she, in return, tears off all her clothes and covers herself in ashes. King David hears of this. He gets very angry. Very, very angry. And does absolutely jack shit about it. Not even sends like a disciplinary letter to his son. He's like, "Well, it is what it is. Boys will be boys." Absalom, meanwhile, her brother, is super angry as well. And he's so super angry that he plots to commit murder. And 2 years later, he commits murder. He kills the son of a bitch. And King David hears of this, and he's like, "You know what? Rape's kind of bad. I'm okay with him. Murder, that's just taking it to a whole different level. I'm gonna have that guy killed." And so Absalom starts escaping from the country. And his advisors really don't like that. And they tell King David, "Hey, bring back Absalom." He's like, "No." And so the advisor for the king hires a woman to go to David and tell him what happened to Absalom. And tell him to bring back Absalom. Absalom is like, yeah. So the woman goes up to the king, and she's like, "Sir, King David, a great evil has befallen my family." And he's like, "Shoot." She's like, "Well, my husband's dead. So my sons, they were out in the field one day, and they got into an argument, and one of them just kind of went up and killed the other. I was like, David, oh, that's fucked up, man. My bad. She's like, wait, there's more. The Avenger of Blood of the peoples of Israel is going after my other son. Is it not enough that I lost a single son? Should I lose 2 sons now? Please, King David, please. Protect my son. Save him from the evil that has befallen upon my family, so I may not lose 2 sons. And David's like, as long as I live, that son should be safe. And the woman's like, well, that son is your son, sir, the King David, and I am you in this story, and the other son is the son your son Absalom killed. This is the story's analogy for what you have been through. And he's like, oh, fuck, not this shit again. Who sent you? One of my advisors, huh? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to save my son. I'm going to bring him back. But he may never enter my castle again, and he may never speak to me ever again. Well, that plan backfired because for the next 2 years, the king's son, Absalom, the son of King David, would stand outside his castle, and every time somebody wanted to come to David to judge for them, the son would be like, oh, my father's a very, very busy man going, you see. He's a very busy man. He's real busy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to judge for you instead. How does that sound, huh? Sounds very good, huh? And his son was kind of a decent judge, you know? People accepted his judgments. And so, a few years later, he plotted to overthrow his father and kill him, and he threw his country into civil war. And David was like, that's not very good, and so he left Jerusalem with his, men. I forgot one of the more funny bits of King David's story. I'm going to mention it later. I'll remember this. Absalom's Absalom was a very handsome man. Apparently, he was tall. He had very thick hair, very thick hair. And, that's it, he's still working. Very thick hair. And, he went into battle with David's loyalists. And David was like, whatever happens, be sure that the young boy is safe. Well, one of David's generals found Absalom, the young boy, stuck to a tree by his hair. He was stuck in a tree branch, and his hair was keeping him there. And so he was like, I'm not gonna kill the king. I'm not gonna kill the king's son. He tells another advisor, hey, look, the king's son is on a tree. And the guy's like, oh, that's pretty cool. So he goes up to the king's son and plays with him like a piñata until he explodes. He kills the son of a bitch. And so King David hears the news. Civil war is won. 20,000 casualties to protect King David's honor. And King David starts going, my son, will I have died rather than you, my son? And the people around him were pretty sick of his shit. Because 20,000 men just died so that his son may not kill him. And now he's saying, oh, would I have died instead of you? So one of them walks up to him, he's like, listen here, you son of a bitch. 20,000 men just died, so you wouldn't, so you're saying, oh, would I have died rather than you? Well, we're about to kill your sorry fucking ass if you don't get your shit together, if you don't get your shit straight, and stop being a lazy little fucking whitey bitch. And so David's like, I see. And so David becomes king again. And he goes into battle until he's too old to go into battle. Doesn't do the same sins again. He gets a concubine to take care of him when he's old and he's getting cold and blah blah blah. This to me is like when the story of King David ends. And the funny thing that I forgot about was like David wanted to build a temple for the Ark of the Covenant instead of having it in a tent. And so Saul had the Ark of the Covenant stolen from them by the Philistines, who returned it with a new ox or with a new cart. So David was like, yeah, I'm going to transport the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. And to Moses, God said to Moses, hey, the Ark of the Covenant can only be transported by Levite priests, okay? Nobody else. Nobody else shall transport the Ark of the Covenant, instead the priests of Levi. And but because David had seen like the Ark of the Covenant being moved by cart, it's like, yeah, I can move the Ark of the Covenant by cart. And so the Ark of the Covenant was very unstable on the cart, and so a man was trying to keep the Ark from falling off. So he touched the Ark, and he died on the spot. He just died. The Ark of the Covenant killed him. And so David was scared. Because the man just fucking died on the spot. And he sent the Ark to one of his friend's houses. His friend and his family and his servants all had a bunch of children. Then David realized, oh, the Ark of the Covenant is not evil. We're just retarded for transporting it with disrespect. So he transported it to Jerusalem with Levites, but then God came to David and was like, you will not build me a temple. You've shed too much blood. Blah, 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 blah. I probably shouldn't be doing blah, 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 blah on God's word, on God's literal word to David, but you know what? I don't think God minds. He knows the contents of my heart. Story of King David, pretty epic. Pretty respectable man, except the rape and murder. That I do not condone. What do I know? Different culture, different times, right? We are closing in on the 1 hour mark of this episode, so I'm going to launch Discord. And I'm going to answer your Patreon questions. How about that? I bet you guys weren't expecting Patreon questions this episode. Well, this episode's going to end with Patreon questions, as always. Well, maybe not end, I don't know, I may have some steam. I had a third topic prepared, other than Bible story and other than Civil War talk, but I completely forgot about it. It was probably relating to the trash rats. Garbage bin. Videos are available. Better. Older news Patreon questions. Is Bill C11 gonna affect the Garbagemice podcast? Oh fuck, what's Bill C11? Bill C11 is a new Canadian law? Sorry, ARG, I had not read this bill at all. Bill... Canada. Bill C11. What's Bill C11 about? It's online streaming ads, updated version of PCL 10, blah 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 blah. PC11 expands the Broadcasting Act that grants the CRTC regulatory powers over radio and television to cover all audiovisual on the internet. PC11, all platforms housing audiovisual content are not specifically excluded, must make financial contributions to producing officially recognized CanCon. Must monitor all online audiovisual content. The power extends penalizing content creators and platforms. Yeah, it's gonna kill us. It's gonna kill the Garbagemice. I might get deported back to Syria, but I don't care. Canada is doing all the wrong moves. I hope a conservative government wins soon. I was hoping they would win this election, but they didn't. Are you guys going to get Hartsey on an episode? Well, Hartsey is very hard to get on. We tried, but he's not coming on anymore. So, I don't know. Who's the implement of this podcast? Seymour or Nazniak? Definitely Nazniak. Seymour is a lot more based. Nazniak is a lot more cringe, a lot more Jewish. So, no. My coworkers won't be listening this far into the podcast, so who gives a shit? Whoever is the vegan, lol. Nazniak is probably vegetarian or something, I don't know. Episode gonna be uploaded tonight. Yeah. This is about an hour of recording. I'm gonna stay here for a few more minutes, or 2 more minutes specifically, because I don't want like this episode to be super short. I want people to actually please, this is unironically, like, tell in the comments or in the Discord or anywhere, tell us, do you like this shit? Do you not? Was this episode good? Was it bad? Do you like our general episodes? I really, really want feedback. You know, what was the guy's name? Gator159. He provides a lot of feedback. He's a pretty cool guy. Hey, Gator. Stop drinking, you fucking drug addicted bastard. Yeah. Seriously, feedback is really appreciated. Seriously, unironically. What else? Stay away from porn. Pray to God. Read the Bible. Go lift some heavy weights. Ride a bicycle. Be Chad. Be healthy. Cook your own food. And thank you guys for listening to the Garbagemice podcast. Don't be worried about civil war. It is coming, but you will live. But you know what? That's all for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this. We will record an after show, me and Red Sante at least. And it's going to be like an apology for this. See ya. Now, Saul was not a very good king.